G'day, Tragic here, and welcome to another box opening. Well, this isn't really a box opening. I'm going back to opening my collection. Basically, my board game collection is still in a bunch of boxes in the rumpus room kind of area, but someone's coming over to visit soon, so I need to clear some space. So I'm going to do a whole bunch of openings, and I'm going to release them once a week to not spam anyone's, inboxes. So let's get straight into it with the next box. Meow. Here's a tall one, as you can see. Let's see what's in this sucker, shall we? Oh, there's a lot of really cool stuff in here. Okay, for starters, let's pull this aside. For starters, we have Elder Signs Unseen Forces. Now, I really like Elder Signs, and this is the first expansion, which was basically a more of the same expansion, just added lots of stuff. Not particularly exciting. The next lot of expansions actually replaced components, and it was a bit like Eldritch Horror, as in it created a whole new game using the same mechanisms. Very cool. Elder Sign, great game. Okay, so this is Age of War. This is a game by Reiner Knizia, and it's not very good. It's basically a dice chucker, similar to Elder Sign, actually. More like Court the King, but I didn't really like it too much. I mean, it's very, very light. It's cool. It's a good one to take on holiday, I guess. Goblins Drool and Fairies Rule. This is basically a rhyming game to play with kids. I had a lot of fun with my niece when she was a little tiny kid. It's got gorgeous art. You basically see how they've got moon symbols or frog symbols and so forth. And you basically just flip these over and it's like a matching game. Very, very cool game. And your idea is to end up with all goblins or all fairies. Okay. So that's a very cool game, but not one I ever play because it's very kiddie. Okay, so this is Patchwork. Patchwork is a very famous game. It's got a great digital version you can get on Steam or on your phone. And it's basically like Calico or something, it's just set collection. You create a quilt. Okay, so this here is the Chom and Rishis Dune expansion factions. Now, I don't really play Dune. I mean, I played Dune to death, back in the old days. But nowadays, I don't really play it much at all. So I still want to get all the expansions for it because at the time, it's one of those games that sort of is part of my history, I buy it to collect it more than anything. Okay, so this is the Fire and Ice Terra Mystica expansion. I have not actually opened this because I haven't played Terra Mystica with a physical copy for a long time. I mainly play on Tabletop Simulator. This is a fantastic game. One of the best ever. I love that game. What is this? This is a bunch of sets for Ashes Reborn. Or I think this might have even been before it was Reborn. It's just Ashes. Yeah, it's just Ashes. But very, very good game. It's a card game, kind of like Magic the Gathering, but it's a solid state game. And what I mean by solid state games is you basically buy completed decks so you don't have to, do any deck building if you don't want to. So card games went from the CCG era to what is essentially the LCG era. And a lot of companies put out LCG style games. Get that off. But even the LCG is quite expensive, and it still suffers from the biggest problem that those kind of games have, is that if you don't have friends who are actively making their own decks, it's very, very hard to get the game running unless you build a cube. A cube is basically a drafting system. Anyway, So that led to the solid state games. And this one here was one of the first really big solid state games, Mage Wars. So this is basically, the idea was, let's make Magic the Gathering, but have a battlefield that you actually compete on. So you actually fight on a big massive battlefield with positional data and stuff and adjacency rules. But this is one of the first really big solid state games, as in you didn't buy individual cards, you bought individual heroes that had a complete deck made up. And then once you had a whole bunch of different heroes, then you could do deck building if you wanted. But the idea was if people came over, they just picked a hero they like, instantly could play. The other really interesting thing about Mage Wars is that it removes a lot of the random chance from your draws. You actually don't draw cards in this. At the beginning of your turn, you can select a bunch of cards from anywhere in your deck. In fact, the decks... Oh, this is such a good game. Ooh. The decks actually come in these little spell books. And you can just flip through and pick out whatever spell you want. And you've got it for that round. So it's a fantastic game, really original and criminally underrated. I don't know why it didn't catch on. It is one of the best dueling card games to come out that were trying anything different. Now, they do make another version of it called Mage Wars Academy, I think it's called, which is basically similar to Mage Wars, but it doesn't have the wargaming table, you know, the positional data. It's just classic dueling. What else we got in here? That's another Ashes set of cards. There's more Terra Mystica. And this is Mare Nostrum's Empires. It's the last one for this box. Now this is an absolutely fantastic game. It's got like a cool bidding system. Oh dear. It's a bit harsh. Oh no. This is not traveled well. Put these under here. Anyway, but I missed the Kickstarter for this, so this is actually the retail version, but it's still absolutely fantastic. This is probably one of the best light war games that you could play if you're looking for a cross war game Euro to play with non-war gamers. Fantastic game. Okay, well that's the end of that, and I'll see you guys next time.